Yeah, sit down, sit down. Hello. So, you're here for the job interview, right? Yeah. Good. So, could I just get your name to start off with, just so we know we've got the right person? And that would be full legal name, of course. Okay. And just to make sure as well, your date of birth. Okay. And sorry, there's one more security question just to make sure you are who you say you are. I'm gonna need the 3 digits on the back of your bank card. Yeah, you put it in when you made the account, I think, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool, that's all confirmed. So, obviously you're here for the job. Welcome. Doing great from a first impression. Well dressed, you know, presenting well. That's great. So, first question, just so we can make sure that, you know, you're here for the right thing, you're here for the right position. What was the salary like at your last job? Yeah. Okay, that's workable. We can work with that. Yeah, for sure. Nice. That's fine. So I think first of all, I just want to ask some very basic questions, not to do with the job at all, just some basic questions to get a sort of grasp on who you are really. And then from there we can sort of look a bit more into the job itself and ask more questions about that. And hopefully you've done some research as well, of course, because that's what you do for a job. So, first up, I would just like to know, are you single, married, that sort of thing? Okay. You're married. Interesting. And who, straight? Are you straight or bi or whatever? Husband? Okay. How wealthy is your husband? I know, a bit of a weird question, but it's just sort of like a personality thing. You know how it is. Okay. If you were to be put into a situation where you had to like fight someone, to like, let's say sword in the stone, right? You're the guard. Would you be able to fend people off, do you think? You don't have any tools or weapons or anything like that, no, just whatever you'd have in your house, really. Like a baseball bat maybe, yeah? Do you think you'd be able to fend off an attacker? The attacker has a gun. Do you think you'd be able to fend them off and keep that sword in the stone safe? Okay. People normally answer that one a little more assuredly, but that's fine. Interesting. Okay. So those are fine. Imagine you had 8 balloons and one of them went missing, would you notice? How long would it take you to notice? Might be a better question, honestly. I don't know why the question says, would you notice? Everyone would notice it eventually. But it's sort of an estimate in hours how long it would take you to notice. Yeah? Okay. That's fine. Yeah, that's totally normal. I think a lot of people are probably in a similar situation. Okay. That's good. That's all good. If you were to choose any house that you could live in any house that you wanted to, would it be your current house, or would you choose one with, you know, better security, or maybe a better location, or maybe one that costs a bit more? Okay, interesting. That's all good. That's all good to know. If you were a bear, imagine you're a bear, right? How many fish would you eat if you were a bear? How many fish would you eat, do you think, on average? 10 fish is pretty good. I'd probably get to 11 though, personally, if I was a bear. Imagine. I'm thinking brown bear, but maybe you were thinking like something else, like a black bear, or, I mean, a polar bear would probably eat more than. Then again, maybe a polar bear wouldn't be eating fish because they're eating seals. Might be smart if you thought of that. Anyways, okay. that all looks good for me. Sorry, weird questions that we do at the start, you know, job interview, it is what it is. Companies trying to look fun and all that, but personally I think it's a bit of a load of rubbish, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, so let's get on to the actual questions. First question, the one everyone loves. Why do you want to work here? I know it's a silly question, but we have to ask it. Why is it that you sort of picked this as the place you want to work, in corpo language, I guess? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, I get that. Great. In terms of hours, what are you looking for? You know, what type of role are you looking for in this job? Okay. Well, that's what we advertise, so that's great. Okay, that's all good. And in terms of like salary, what type of salary are you looking for from this job? What type of pay do you want? Well, okay, awesome. So we've got sort of some basic questions down. Now I've got to ask you the question, you know, the types of questions that everyone sort of dreads at the job interview, but we got to ask them. It is what it is. What do you bring to this company? If you were to start working here tomorrow, what would you bring? What are your skills, your talents? Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Not awful answers, pretty good, honestly, in terms of what we're looking for here. That kind of lines up quite well, so glad that you mentioned those things. What previous experience do you have in this industry? What can you bring to the role? Is there anything that sort of makes you stand out versus other candidates, in your opinion? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I get that. Okay, awesome. Right, now, I have a few more sort of security questions that I'd like you to answer now, just for the future, you know, to make sure, like when you verify who you are online. Obviously you have a couple security questions already, but we want to add a few more because those are very basic and you can like very easily sort of figure that out. Whereas here, like you can figure out someone's date of birth or name quite easily, but you can't figure out where they went to high school. So that's our first one. Where did you go to high school? Okay, cool. And can I take your email address down too? This isn't a security question, sorry. I should have said this at the start. This one's just for sort of any further communication we might have with you. Okay, and if you were to make a password, make up a fake password in your head right now, how many characters would it have? This is one of the security questions, yeah. So make up a password in your head, or even use the password you've got, maybe your email password, and think, how many characters? Okay, cool. We'll take one more. What's your mother's maiden name? Okay, cool, good to know. Right, now we've just got a couple questions about sort of finances, because obviously we've talked a little bit about what your last salary was and what your expected salary is here. So we want to know sort of in terms of bonuses, in terms of opportunities that we might have, you know, travel. Of course, a lot of that is going to be on the company, but there may be certain things that we offer where it's like we give you a free thing in a place, but you have to pay to get there. So we need to know a few questions like that, right? Because for some people, if you have worse finances or better finances, right, we offer different things, which makes it seem unfair, but really it's more fair, right? The company doesn't have infinite money to give everyone everything. So if you have more money already, it makes more sense to allow those with less, who are slightly worse off, to still participate in those employee experiences. So how much money do you have in your bank account right now? Let's go for that. Well, no, how much money do you have in general, right? Not assets, but like in your bank and in sort of your savings, all of that sort of thing. How much money would you say you've got? It doesn't have to be exact, just like an estimate of an amount. Okay, cool, that's good, that's good. Good to know. Good to know. In terms of like your family, your household income, is it sorry, your household income. So this isn't how much money you guys have together, but it's how much money your house makes per year on average, right? Okay, cool. And would your partner, would your husband be willing to pay you money to do things, right? So if you lost all your money, would your partner pay you something? But also, if we offered like an opportunity, but you had to pay for the transport, would your partner give you money for that if you didn't have any? Okay, good to know. Now we just need to ask a little bit about sort of housing, of course. Will you be commuting to this role? And if so, well, obviously you'll be commuting, you don't live here, but like how long is that commute? Is it a sizable commute? Do you need to take the train? Do you drive? Are you going to walk? Are you going to take public transport like a bus? Are you going to bike? You know, how close are you? How long is your journey? That sort of thing. Okay, that's good to know. And in terms of your house itself, how big is it? We do. It's an important question. Okay. That's good to know. How many entrances would you say your house has? In terms of like front door, back door, side door maybe, windows, like a conservatory. A couple houses have that sort of thing. My nan, for example, has 3 doors, right? She has a sort of conservatory which has a glass door, she has a back door, and she has a side door. How many doors and windows that would be enterable, I guess, do you have on your house? So like ground floor windows, I would say, count as an entrance in case you lock yourself out, right? Okay, interesting. I know, it sounds like we're buying your house. We're not. It's just weird questions we have to ask for some reason. I don't know. Okay, that's good to know. Indeed. Do you have a spare key to your house? Obviously, there's 2 of you. I assume you both have a key, but do you have a spare one as well? Maybe you give it to family or something like that. And is that sitting with family? Do you sort of hide it outside? What's the sort of deal there? Just sort of figuring out the type of person you are as to how sort of secure, I guess, you'd be. If you're secure in your home, probably secure in the workplace, so we kind of want to know that. Okay, interesting. Now we're just going to ask a few general questions about sort of you. Obviously I asked a couple of these already, but we're going to ask a few more here as well, because we need to get to know you before we employ you, don't we? So if you were to make a pin, what would you do? You know, what numbers would you use? Don't necessarily tell me your pin, but if would you pick a birthday? Would you pick a significant year or a date? Would you pick a friend's birthday? Would you pick like a location, right? Some people pick like the first street they lived on, the number house they lived in, and then they pick the second 2 digits of their current postcode, something like that. What would you go with? Yeah, I think a lot of people do that. I would say a lot of people do that generally. Yeah, definitely get that answer quite frequently, so that's normal. Okay, and when is your birthday? Obviously, we want to hold a little office party if you do get invited when your birthday is. So when's your birthday? We can put it on system. Okay, interesting. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. So important. Husband's birthday. I know. A little crazy that we get his on file as well, but if we know your husband's birthday, we can automatically give you the day off for it, or even a week if you request it. We'll understand, right? It's already on file. We know why. You don't have to explain. Oh, it's a birthday. It also means you can't lie and say that it's his birthday when it's not. So we know when to actually give you the time off. Interesting. And when did you guys get married? When's your anniversary? Fun. Okay. How much money could someone take from your credit card, debit card, either or, before you noticed? Does your bank send you notifications, that sort of thing? How much money could someone take? Yeah, I know, weird question, right? I don't make the questions, I'm just the interviewer. Sorry, hair in my mouth. Well, how much do you think? Yeah, interesting. I think I would probably say a little less for me personally. I check it quite a lot. But yeah, no, that's fair enough. It can be easy to just think that, like, you know, a bill or something has taken the money out and someone hasn't stolen something from you. If someone were to hide in your house, where would they hide where you wouldn't notice them for the longest amount of time? I know, this one's really weird. When I had to answer this one, I was like very confused. I was like, excuse me, you're gonna break into my house? What? Obviously no one did break into my house. I'm here working here and I'm pretty happy with it, but it is a weird question. I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I have a similar space in my own house where it would take me a while to notice someone being there. Okay. That's cool. Does anyone know where you are right now? Did you tell anyone you had a job interview today? You know, that sort of thing. Obviously sometimes people come here and then they sort of surprise their spouse with it or whatever. They go, oh, I've got a new job. But sometimes they're like very sort of worried. That's the sort of thing we're wondering. What type of person are you? Do you celebrate? Do you celebrate preemptively? Do you tell people when you're doing things? Do you tell people where you are generally? Do you find my iPhone? You know? Okay, interesting. How many organs do you have? Yeah, we're just sort of wondering. Ever sort of got an organ donated? Do you ever have a surgery to remove something? I think some people get like certain organs around their stomach removed because they're not necessary. Is it the gallbladder? Or might be the gallbladder. It's one of them. One of them people get removed sometimes. Pancreas? Not sure. One of them people get because like, you know, maybe they get illness, they don't need it. Again, weird questions, I will tell you that much, but it's fun. It's kind of fun to ask them every time, so you have to sort of explain, this is weird, I get it, but it's normal, it's okay. Are they healthy as well, your organs? That's really good to hear, yeah. Love a healthy organ, means that, you know, you're fit to work. That's always great. In terms of your husband, what would actually cause you to divorce him? What would he have to do, or what would you have to do, or what sort of situation would have to occur for you to want a divorce with your husband? Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that's a great one. Falling out of love as that sort of final answer there is pretty good, because a lot of people sort of forget to mention that, right? Obviously, people will say the normal stuff, cheating, if your husband becomes a serial killer, you know, the regular things. But falling out of love with someone is something that people don't really think about that often, where it's like, yeah, maybe you marry this person and you love them, and then you love them for 10 years, and then after 10 years you sort of go, I don't really love this person anymore, they kind of piss me off now. And maybe you try and fix it and you can't fix it, and then you decide to divorce them anyways. And then you find out he was having an affair anyway, so who cares? And he gave all his money to the other woman, but, well, it is what it is. Okay, those are all good. Now let me ask, what is it that you expect to do in this job role? What is it that you're sort of expecting? What responsibilities would you want to have? If you were to get this job, what would you want to do? What would be the things that you do in your role? Is there anything you would do differently than the way we advertise the job? If so, how would you do it differently? What would you be doing? That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I understand that. Okay, cool. So, are you the type of person to change things? So, if you see something that isn't working the way that you'd want it to, or it's sort of not really helping, I guess, or maybe there's something up, well, are you the type of person to go, okay, there's something going on here, I'm going to change this, I'm going to make this work in a different way, or something along those lines? Would you change things if you notice systems working weirdly at work or something like that? Would you go and look to change them? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like a lot of these questions, yeah, a lot of them can be multiple, like you might see them as multiple choice when really they're not. And there's sort of answers where it's a little bit like, well, it depends, right? Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. Depends what it is, depends the situation. So that's kind of why we go for this interview style where we just sort of ask questions and let you answer them. Because I think multiple choice questions can make it quite difficult to answer them sometimes, because sometimes you want to say like, yeah, I would, but also sometimes I wouldn't, right? So that's kind of why we do it in this way. Okay. If you were to go missing, how long would it take people to notice? Yeah, that makes sense. You know, having a partner and everything, it would not take a super long amount of time. That question always freaked me out when they asked me that one. That one was weird. Like a couple of the other ones, really. But yeah, I think that's one that I think about quite a lot in a weird way, where I'm just sitting at home and I'm like, I could die in my room like that right now, and it would take people like a week for me to notice because I never go outside, or something like that, which isn't true for me. Obviously, I have this job, but you know, sometimes you sort of sit around and you think, how long would it take people to notice if something happened to me? How long would I be here before people noticed that I was gone? Would I be saved? Would I be saved? How long would we have? Makes sense, right? Makes sense. Would your partner remarry if you guys got divorced? Or I suppose maybe a better question would be, would you remarry? This isn't about your partner, is it? Again, I didn't write these questions, so I don't know why they're saying that, but I'm going to cross that out and write, would you remarry? Because that one's just a weird one. Actually, I'm not going to ask that one. But we will ask the next one. How much would you inherit if your husband died? Interesting. And kind of weird as well, but I guess it's a little less weird than would you remarry? That one's a little bit more verbose, morbid, verbose, morbid, I don't know. Anyways, that one's a little bit, a little bit more dark than the how much would you inherit, which is also kind of dark, really, but I suppose it's a financial question. I don't even know why half of these are on here. I'm going to be real with you. They're a little odd, but I'm just doing the job. I'm just doing the job, and the job is worth job is worth doing. It's a fun job. So you know how it is. Do you have any allergies? I think that's probably a question that should have come a lot earlier than any of these weird ones. Do you have any allergies? And how allergic are you to those things? Deathly allergic, a little bit of a rash, you know, sort of. I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, how allergic are you? With 10 being I'm gonna die, and 1 being I get a little itchy, you know? That's pretty high. That's pretty high, yeah. So I suppose we'd have to make some adjustments at work, wouldn't we, for you to sort of not die. But that's okay. I think that's a normal thing that places would do, most places anyways. If they don't do that, then maybe they're not really taking care of their employees. Okay. How much do you think you're worth? Just as a person, I guess. How high would you value yourself monetarily? How high would you value yourself? That's kind of low. Some self-esteem stuff going on there. Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. Humans do sell for quite a lot more than that normally, but sorry, just a joke. But yeah, I think you're valuing yourself a little bit low there. I'd value you higher for sure. Not that I know you particularly well, but I think that's maybe a self-esteem thing coming in here. You got into the interview stage at the very least, so you must be worth something, right? Okay. Interesting. How loud do you scream? Interesting. And do you think you could scream? Do you think people would care in the area you live in? You know, is it the type of thing where screams are pretty common? Maybe there's foxes or cats or just kids that run around a lot. How long would it take? Like, would people call the police if you were to scream? In your house, right? Obviously, I don't just mean in general. If you were to scream here, people would definitely call the police because this is an office block. Which is, I guess, is one of the perks working in an office. If something happens to you, then people are right there. But yeah, at home. Yeah. Makes sense. Do you play video games? I know, weird turn. Do you play video games? What games do you play? Fun. And how immersed do you get into those games? If you're playing a game, how into it are you? Like, scale of 1 to 10, I guess, from 10, fully immersed, to 1, I'm kind of just looking at a screen, but I'm very much in the room, right? 9, yeah, I think most people are around a 9, to be honest. Video games can be pretty immersive, probably more immersive than TV for a lot of people. I'm kind of the opposite, weirdly, but yeah. So you've got that. In terms of immersion, that's good. What times would you say you generally play video games? Are you like a late night gamer, early morning gamer? Are you going to be playing before work, after work, in your lunch break? Maybe you're a mobile gamer? What times would you be playing video games? Yeah, those are pretty standard hours, I would say, for people to play video games. I kind of do the same. Don't worry, this isn't just a ploy to get your gamer tag and get you on some games, though probably will. Pretty big gaming culture at this office. But yeah, I was just wondering, do you have a Steam account? Cool. And that's good. Okay. Cool. Those are some okay answers. So it looks to me like, honestly, you've passed this round of interviews, I would say. Some places will make you wait and make you go home. They'll send you an email. No, I'll say you've probably passed. If you could come back for a second round of interviews, in about a week, I would say about a week's time, if you could come back for a second round of interviews, that would be brilliant. I know there were definitely some weird questions in this one, but you know, we have to make sure you are suitable for this job. if you want to play games with the people in the office, gonna have to wait till you're employed for that, or you know, if you do get employed, because it'd be a little weird if we all started playing games with you and then had to fire you or like not accept you into the company, right? It'd be a bit odd, so we don't do that. Yeah, but I think that's probably about it. If you want to scan the QR code on the way out. It should send you an email with a date and time. Send us a link so we can put that in and send you the email properly, right? So that's on the door if you scan that on the way out. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you next week. Have a great week, and hopefully you pass this next interview so we can give you the job. Great. It was nice meeting you. See you next time. Bye-bye. Relatively large house here. Oh. They lied to me as well. Unless the Google Maps is wrong, it looks like they actually have a third entrance here that I wasn't told about. Huh. Interesting. And a basement too. On the floor plan anyways. Maybe they don't know that's there, that might have been bricked up.